Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Enslaved, and today I'm bringing you an in-depth Demonology Warlock guide for World of Warcraft: The War Within. This guide will be beneficial for beginners all the way to advanced Demonology players. I'll be covering the best gear and the best crafted options, your beginner basics, your best stats, enchants, and consumables to use, the basic fundamentals of the spec, and the different talent build options for both single target and AOE, including the best builds for Raid and Mythic Plus, and tips and tricks to push Demonology Warlock to its limits. In no way am I saying I'm an expert, but this guide is coming from a former top 5 US rating Warlock with multiple rank 1 parses with every Warlock spec across multiple expansions, and over 500 days played on Warlock, so I feel I have a bit of knowledge and experience to share. I want to start off first with what your stat priority should be. Obviously, intellect is going to be your number 1 highest value stat. Moving to our secondary stats though, you want to focus on getting your haste to about 24%. Once you do, your verse is going to be equal to your crit, and our last value stat would be mastery. A caveat I want to say with this is always sim your character, especially as you're getting more geared and you're getting those diminishing returns on certain stats, and you might be overcapped on your haste. You could be looking at your mastery adding more value than your crit, for example. So sim your characters to get exact values, but this is a good baseline to go off of. Next, I want to talk about the consumables you should be using. Up on the screen now are the best consumables for you to use. I do want to mention, I do have Flask of Tempered Swiftness up there. That is only if you are not at your 24% haste cap, which if you have hero track gear, you know, you're probably going to hit that haste cap fairly easy. So in all other circumstances, run Flask of Alchemical Chaos. Other than that, you do realize we do run a Diamond Gem. This Diamond Gem will increase our critical strike chance by 0.15% for every different colored gem we have in there. There's 4 different colored gems, and I'll throw some on the screen right now. You do kind of want to make sure you have a mix and match of these gems, and again, sim your character with which ones would be best for you. You know, typically you want a haste crit gem, but as mentioned before, sim your character, mix it up with what gems you're using, and see what your stat priority value is. The next thing I want to talk about is our best gear and crafted embellishment options. Thrown up on the screen right now is our BIS overall gear from both Mythic Plus and Raid. One thing I want to mention real quick is my consumables, enchants, and this gear list have all came from Wowhead. From a guy named Not Warlock. He wrote the guides for Wowhead, and he's been a guide creator for as long as I can remember. He's very knowledgeable, always writes great guides, and there's no sense in me duplicating these lists when he already has them perfect. So I'll be leaving a link in the description to the Wowhead guide below. But digging into this, one thing I really want to mention here is, yes, this is your best in slot list. This is accurate. Don't feel that you need to absolutely shoot for these pieces. There's plenty of other valuable options from Mythic Plus. You know, on my current character, I'm not even close to this BIS list, but I'm still pretty geared and have great stat weight. So the main things we need to focus on are your embellished pieces. You're going to be rocking the embellishment Ascension and the embellishment Writhing armor banding, which just doubles the effect of the Ascension embellishment. Your best pieces to craft this on would be an offhand and boots. Next, I want to talk about the basic fundamentals of your Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock focuses on summoning demons and enhancing them through effectively using your cooldowns. You have Soul Shard Generators and Soul Shard Spenders. You start off a fight passively with 3 Soul Shards, like so, and you cap at 5 Soul Shards. It is very important that you do not overcap. Some of your Soul Shard generating spells are Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt. You only want to use Demon Bolt when you have a proc to do so, like that, to make it instant cast. You then spend your Soul Shards on spells such as Hand of Godan, Call Dreadstalkers, Summon Charhound, and Grimoire Felguard. And then you can use your Demonic Tyrant ability to empower all of these active demons. More in depth on this later. Next, I would like to discuss talent builds. I'm going to be showing you 3 different talent builds here. 2 of them are going to be AOE and Mythic Plus centered, and the one is going to be strictly single target, more for like a single target raid encounter. For the first build is what I have on the screen here. Now the difference between this build I'm going to show you first and the second build is just these 2 talents right here. Umbral Blaze and Pact of the End Mother. This is the talent build I rock with, I'd say about 90% of the time. It does sim the best for me, just barely above the talent build I'm going to show you in just a second. Umbral Blaze is terrible. I mean, it barely does any damage, but you're taking this talent to get Pact of the Imp Mother. The value from Pact of the Imp Mother is incredible. I mean, not only will it duplicate your Hand of Gul'dan cast, which just increases that damage, it can also spawn more imps for you, which is going to empower your Demonic Tyrant more. It's going to make you do more imp damage, potentially implode more damage, Fel Firebolt, etc. This is a great talent build, and everything rotationally stays the same. It's very passive and easy to play around. You can switch these two talents and take Shadow Invocation and Fel Sunder instead. This sim's incredibly close, if not potentially even a little bit better in certain situations than Umbral Blaze and Pact of the Imp Mother, but it does require a little bit more micromanaging, with micromanaging your pet's Fellstorm so that you can keep this 5% damage buff active as long as possible. Both of these are great choices, and you can play around with them and see which one best fits your gameplay. Lastly, I want to show you the single target talent build. A couple things do change here. For example, we change this from the Infernal Presence over to the Gloom Slash. So this just makes your Vile Fiend do a little bit more single target damage. And then you also will be playing Sacrifice Souls, which just makes your Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt deal 2% additional damage per demon you have summoned. What do we lose running this build? We use Dreadlash, which just makes your Dreadstalkers do an AOE bite. Obviously, we don't need that at all because we're not doing any AOE damage at all. First, we're going to get started with doing the AOE/Cleave Rotation. We're going to be using that first talent build I talked about that we use about 90% of our times and in most of our Mythic Plus dungeons. There's a couple quick things I want to mention. Number one, I have a couple Weakauras that you see on my screen. This right here tracks my imps, how many active imps I have, how many bolts they have left to cast until they expire, and this will fill up when I have, 10 imps. We'll have more trackers rolling. I also have a Weakaura for my Spymaster trinket. I forgot to mention this, but if there's any piece of gear that you are wanting to target, it would be Spymaster's Web. This trinket is broken, to say the least. It is incredible. It's going to increase your damage by a ton. So I track it down here to track the stacks and when I should use it. I never really use this trinket unless I get full value out of it. So unless I'm at 40 stacks, or say I'm close to that 40 stacks, like 30 something stacks, and we do a big pull and it's lining up with my cooldowns in Mythic Plus, I'll go ahead and use it then as well. Other than that, this is just a tracker for it, and then this just tracks my Diabolus Hero Talent rotation. All of my Weakauras that I have on the screen right now, I'll have in my description of the video for you guys to be able to use. The only other things I track that maybe you don't see right now is my Demonic Core procs. So I'm going to showcase the rotation now. I'm not going to use the Spymaster Web, but say I was at 40 stacks, you would pop this after you summon your Tyrant. Top left side of the screen, I'll have a rotation guide to easily follow along. And then down here, you'll be able to follow the spellcast I'm using.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're trying to fish for a Call of Dreadstalkers proc here. Doesn't look like we're going to get it, so we're just going to cast it here. It's unfortunate. Use our Demonic Strength as soon as we pop our Tyrant. And then when the Tyrant expires here, we're going to go ahead and implode so we don't lose all of that implode damage from these imps. We have our cooldowns back up. Now passively, we're kind of spreading our dooms out. So I'm making sure to Demon Bolt different targets. And then I should also be using my Implosion. You don't want to implode unless you have about 6 imps active. But as we're waiting for this next Tyrant to come, we're going to be using Implosions here. So these imps are about to expire. I'm going to send. I have a proc right here. I'm going to save this Charhound to use it for my Tyrant. Trying to fish for another Demonic Core proc before my Dreadstalkers comes off cooldown. Fishing for the proc. I didn't get it, so I'm just going to cast it. Use my Tyrant and Demonic Strength right after. And from here, it's pretty standard. Not using Hand of Gul'dan unless I'm at least 3 shards. I'm using my Felstorm as well for some more AOE cleave. My Tyrant is expiring, and now we send all of our imps and implode. I'll go through one more round here. Go ahead and use that Charhound and Dreadstalkers off of cooldown. Remember to spread our Doom procs. When these Dooms expire, they do a lot of damage, and they also summon a Doom Guard and give us some imps. Our imps are about to expire. Implode all of those. Now we have our big Tyrant coming back off cooldown here shortly. So we're kind of ramping up for this next Tyrant. I'm going to get my Charhound out. Summon my Grimoire. I need to wait till I use my Dreadstalkers. Perfect, I got a proc ready to roll. Sending. Popping Tyrant. And here I got 40 stack Spy Masters. I went ahead and used it. And this is where you're getting to see the damage go way up. So even multiple minutes in the fight, our damage is actually growing instead of declining. It's kind of how the demo profile is. And we implode as that Tyrant was expiring. That's it, and then rinse and repeat. Follow with your Dooms. Make sure you're sending your imps before they all expire, especially when you have at least more than 6 and any 2 target plus cleave. And then from there, just using our Charhound, our Dreadstalkers off cooldown, and making sure we're not using Demonic Tyrant unless we have Charhound, Dreadstalkers active, and every 2 minutes have both of these active as well as Grimoire Felguard. Now I'm going to take you through the single target rotation. Again, we're going to change our build a little bit to this build here, which I showed earlier. Top left corner will give you the rotation, and you can follow along right above the damage meter. Single target's even simpler because you're not throwing any implodes in there. You're just making sure to use your Tyrant at the correct timing to empower your demons.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Got the proc, that's perfect. So again, really cookie cutter. We're using the Charhound off of cooldown, same with the Dreadstalkers. We're making sure to line it up with the Tyrant every time. And we're just using our generators and our spenders accordingly. Making sure we don't overcap on soul shards. And only casting Hand of Gul'dan once we're at 3 soul shards or more. Once you get close to your Tyrant, you can kind of start saving some of these, but we also don't want to overcap on our Demon Bolt procs, and it only allows us to hold 4. We have a lot of imps active. I'm trying to fish for... Nope, didn't get it. I'm going to need to send it now. Use my Tyrant. Could have had a better Tyrant there. Typically on your second Tyrant, you want about 9 imps active. We had 8, which is fine. You can even have more sometimes, depending on haste buffs, lust, etc. Tyrant's expiring. That was our small Tyrant without Grimoire. It's really unfortunate when you don't have the instant proc. Like there, I should have just fished one more cast and I would have had it and not had to cast that ability, but you definitely don't want to wait all day for that proc to happen. So if it's not coming, send it. You want to use those Dreadstalkers off cooldown like we mentioned, so we're not going to be waiting an eternity for it to happen. We have cooldowns coming shortly. We'll go ahead and send our Grimoire now. Keep building our imps, waiting for our Charon to come off CD, hoping for a proc for our Dreadstalkers. Not gonna get it. Maybe right here. Nope, that's unfortunate. Either way, send it. Tyrant, Demonic Strength. And then back to the same thing. You can use the Spy Masters if we're pretending this is the end of the fight. Even if you're not at full stacks, you don't want to just sit on a Spy Masters at the end of a fight. And again, the longer the fight goes on, you tend to ramp. You tend to do more damage towards the end than you did in the beginning. So that's it. Takes some time to get used to, but overall it's pretty simpler and it's definitely less complex than the AOE rotation. Next I want to show you some live tips and tricks. So we're in a miss key right now, and we're on the first boss. Now I want to show you, you're not necessarily using items off of cooldown. Right now, you see that I have my cooldowns kind of just sitting here. I keep Hand of Gul'danin, I keep building up my imps. Yes, I'm using my Dreadstalkers and my Charhound because I know they'll be up when I need them, but I'm not using my Tyrant. Reason being is this boss, Ingra, takes a ton of damage after you kill this tree, and you got to make sure to kill him in that phase or the fight can last way too long. So right now, I'm just pre-setting up my Tyrant right before we're about to go in that phase. Boom, got all my demons active, just extended them, and popped the Spy Masters, and just watch the damage meter here. If I weren't to line up these cooldowns correctly, this boss wouldn't have died in this phase, and we definitely wouldn't have ramped up near as much damage as we just did right there. I'm going to show you another example here. Same key we're in. Now, I want to talk through this. We're just killing this single target mob. Say I had Tyrant available right now, and say this mob was at like 30%. I would not have sent Tyrant. I would have instead built up my imps. So you see right now I have about 13 imps. We're kind of waiting to go into the next pool, and my cooldowns are lining up perfectly here. Now I want to get these imps extended as fast as possible, so I'm going to summon my two main demons. I'm going to try to work another Hand of Gul'dan in there, because I was trying to cap out at 15 imps. A couple of them expired, but then we popped our cooldowns. Now talking through this as well, usually you wait to implode until the end of your Tyrant, but I see that the mobs are about to die, or at least a couple of them. I'm going to lose a lot of cleave damage, so I just went ahead and sent my imps right there. You just have to know when to use your cooldowns, when to get the max benefit out of them. I really wanted to finalize this video with just a couple more tips and tricks to really help you maximize your damage output. I talked about cooldown management and how important it is for demo. I showed you guys the rotation, the standard cookie cutter rotation of what it looks like. There's some variants that I want to show you. So say you're in a Mythic Plus dungeon and you're finishing a pack. You still got about 30, 40 seconds left on your Tyrant, or even 20 seconds left, let's say, and your, Gloomhound and Dreadstalkers are just coming off of cooldown. If you're assuming the mobs are going to die within the next 10-15 seconds, I would just spend my time ramping up imps. So just sending Gul'dans, holding all these cooldowns, and you can go into the next pack, if they died right now. In Mythic Plus, it works a little bit different. Your imps will actually save and stay here after combat. They're not going to expire. They're not going to use all their Felfire bolts. Sometimes you can save a good 15, 20 imps at the end of this pack and then just send them all on the next pack when you start that group. It's going to help with your front load damage a lot. Also, when I'm coming into packs in Mythic Plus, I tend to, as the tanks group in it, go ahead and summon my Charhound, or yeah, I'd be using the Charhound in Mythic Plus instead of the Gloomhound. I tend to summon this beforehand just to help with that initial ramp damage, because we really do struggle with that front load burst. So this just gets things out a little bit quicker for us. The last thing I want to mention real quick is just a quick raid example. So in this raid on the fourth boss, for example, he has some adds that spawn in the fight. Sometimes they spawn at like weird timers. I would typically start my opening rotation, summon my Demonic Tyrant as soon as I get all my demons out and I'm ramped up, but I would actually hold my Demonic Strength instead of using it as I would standardly. I would hold it for when those adds come out. My Felguard could be damaging the boss, and as soon as those adds spawn, use Demonic Strength on him, and it's just going to charge over and start doing some mass AOE. So on bosses like that, I tend to save my Implosions and stuff like my Demonic Strength to try to line up, do more of that AOE burst damage, and just increase my overall output. And that wraps up the Demonology Warlock guide. This guide was so fun to make, and I hope it's beneficial to you all. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful or beneficial, please drop a like, make sure you subscribe to support the channel, and tell me what videos you would like to see in the future. I'll see y'all in the next one.